Years ago, I was working for a corporation as an internal consultant, and I've always had recurring thoughts and dreams of going off on my own, having my own business. But I had it pretty good where I was at, and I kept thinking, well, things will take a turn for the worse and then I'll leave. And that never happened. But the idea of wanting to go off and start my own thing just kept coming back again and again and again. Well, I was working on a project with a colleague for a vice president. He was reorganizing his organization, and at some point along the project, he asked me, Diane, I really want you to take a look at what the opportunities will be here and let me know where you want to land in the organization. So I came home and I thought about that, and I realized, I think where I want to be is on my own. I would rather be a consultant than an employee. And I started thinking, maybe actually that there could be something in it for the corporation if I did that as well. But, I got nervous. I started thinking that would be scary to have that conversation. And what if it went south and, all the things that I could lose if it did. So I didn't really do anything about it. But then I started finding screws. Big screws, little screws, all sizes, everywhere. I would be walking across the kitchen floor and I would step on something and see it was a screw. I'd go into my kids' room and there'd be a screw sticking out of the carpet. In the garage, there were big bolts I kept finding. And it wasn't just at work, at home, it was at work. I remember waiting for an elevator, the doors opened, boom, boom, out pops a screw, bounced on the ground. And I think the kicker for me was when I was working with this colleague on this project and we were poring over some papers, and a little tiny screw popped right out of her eyeglasses and landed on the paper that we were looking at. And I just had to stop and interrupt the conversation and let her know my story, which she thought was interesting, and we laughed about it a little bit and then went on back to work. But I kept reeling over it, and so that evening I called a good friend of mine and I told her about, I'm finding all these screws, what do you think about this? And we joked, maybe you're screwed, or maybe you got a screw loose. And then she said, you know what, Di, there's something to this. Let me go get my dictionary. Let's just for the heck of it, let's just see. So she went and got her dictionary, and I was kind of wandering around with the phone, kind of straightening things up, not really watching where I was going or what I was doing. And as she read the definition, I reached down into the sewing, there was a sewing drawer with the drawer was open, and I reached down. She read the definition. It said something that needs to be turned or acted upon. And just as she did, I felt my hand wrap around a Ziploc bag, and I pulled it up and looked at it. It was a bag of screws. So I realized this was a message for me. The next day, I had a conversation with the vice president. I ended up giving my notice, and I never found another screw again.